Grim morning and welcome to the Grim. I'm your host, Kristen. On today's episode, we'll be opening the gate and entering Glendalough Cemetery, located in Glendalough, Ireland. So grab your favorite mug, cozy up, and let's take a dig into history. This week's cemetery takes us to one of my favorite countries, Ireland. I've had the privilege of visiting Ireland several times, and each visit has left me enchanted by its rich lore and haunting beauty. One of the first things you'll notice when arriving in Ireland is its unique atmosphere. No matter the weather, the land carries a subtle dark undertone that almost feels otherworldly. It's a beauty laced with melancholy, as if the very earth whispers its history, hauntings, and the weight of the centuries gone by. Despite enduring incredible hardships throughout its history, the Irish people radiate warmth, humor, and generosity. They are without a doubt some of the most friendliest and most hospitable people I've ever encountered. Their spirit, much like their country, is deeply inspiring, a testament to resilience and an enduring power of community and culture. Nestled within the lush greenery of the County Wicklow lies Glendalough, a historic monastery and one of the crown jewels of Ireland's ancient East. Known as the Garden of Ireland, is located just south of Dublin on Ireland's east coast. Founded in the 6th century by St. Kevin, an Irish saint, this remarkable site became a renowned center of learning in early Christian Ireland. The name Glendalough, meaning the Valley of Two Lakes, reflects a serene and picturesque setting, which remains a tranquil retreat from the modern world. Remarkably, much of the area's rural charm and natural beauty remain undisturbed, offering hiking trails and breathtaking scenery that feels as timeless today as it did centuries ago. The graveyard sits at the center of a monastic enclosure, a tradition of Irish settlements. The monastery, now in ruins, was abandoned after the Reformation, becoming part of the burial ground we see today. It's surrounded by over 2,000 gravestones that weave stories of faith, artistry, and legacy. The graves can be toured by a graveyard trail that's self walking or guided. So much history can be found within the grounds, so it's advisable to take a guided tour. Prior to medieval times, Ireland was a pagan country, without its Catholic religion so closely tied to the Irish today. Yet the conversion to Christianity had already begun, first with St. Patrick, who established churches quickly with the intent for all of Ireland to be Christian. The establishment of monasteries thus wasn't unique, but in Glendalough's case, it wasn't built out of the intent to convert pagans, but to seek solitude, praying to the Christian God. But let's start with the man who started it all himself, St. Kevin. Before achieving sainthood, Kevin was reputedly born in 498 AD into a noble family. Despite his privileged background, he chose a life dedicated to God. After becoming ordained, Kevin sought solitude, preferring prayer over preaching. Seeking refuge from the attention of his followers, he retreated to the peaceful isolation of Glendalough, seeking to pursue a life of peace and spiritual devotion to God alone. According to legend, he was guided by an angel to a partially man made cave now known as St. Kevin's Bed, where he lived for many years. St. Kevin's Bed is a small cave carved into a rock face near the edge of a mountain, overlooking the upper lake from a height about 30 feet that you still can see to this day. Accessing the cave is extremely challenging, requiring passage through a narrow rectangular opening and a short, cramped corridor just about 3 feet high and 2.5 feet wide. The main chamber itself only measures about 4 feet wide and less than 3 feet high, making it impossible for an adult to stand upright when within. It's believed that Kevin used this austral space as a sleeping space and a sanctuary for prayer and meditation, embodying his commitment to a life of simplicity and devotion. This serene setting allowed Kevin to focus entirely on prayer, contemplation, and deepening his connection with God, away from otherworldly distractions. In this tranquil retreat, he cultivated a profound spiritual practice, laying the foundation for his legacy as a holy man and eventually the establishments as Glendalough as the center of faith and learning. According to medieval accounts of St. Kevin's life, a remarkable tale surrounds its efforts to elevate Glendalough as a spiritual destination of immense importance. It's said that St. Kevin brought back consecrated soil from Rome, one of the most sacred centers of Christianity, and scattered it within the church and graveyards of Glendalough. This symbolic act imbued the site with a profound sense of sanctity, creating a tangible connection between this serene valley in Ireland and the heart of Christianity in Rome. This story played a significant role in Glendalough's rise as a major pilgrim destination in medieval Ireland. It was believed that undertaking several pilgrimages to Glendalough equaled the spiritual merit of one pilgrim to Rome, a testament to the site's sacred aura and the reverence for which it was held. This made Glendalough one of the four principal pilgrim sites in Ireland, along with other renowned locations like Armagh, Cromagnois, and Crowpatrick. Pilgrims from across Ireland and beyond traveled to Glendalough to pray, seek blessings, and connect with the spiritual legacy of St. Kevin. The site became a hub for religious devotion, drawing seekers who marveled at its natural beauty and spiritual significance. This act of bringing Roman soil to Glendalough not only elevated its status within the Christian world, but also demonstrated the interconnectedness of Ireland's faith with a broader Christendom during the early medieval period. The monastic settlement of Glendalough, often referred to as the monastic city, boasts an array of impressive structures, with the iconic round tower standing as its most striking feature. Soaring 30 meters high, this cylindrical tower serves as a testament to the architectural ingenuity of early Irish monks. Nearby, the main cluster of Masonic buildings is situated along a river, centered around this magnificent landmark. Nearby, the main cluster of Masonic buildings is situated along a river, centered around the magnificent landmark. Visitors enter the site through the gateway, a distinctive entrance marked by two round headed granite arches, offering a glimpse into the craftsmanship of the time. Beyond the gateway of Glendalough lies St. Mary's Church, a serene relic of the site's rich monastic past, and the priest's house, a 12th century Romanesque structure distinguished by an ancient enigmatic carving above its doorway. Its original graveyard started at the very center of this city, growing throughout the years, eventually seeing its abandonment and its structures turn to ruin lost to time. At the heart of the site begins the Graveyard Trail, offering a glimpse into the lives of this quaint town's residents, its tumultuous history, and the evolving landscape of faith over the centuries. Amid the 2,000 gravestones scattered throughout the grounds is a marker for Isolde Stewart, a figure whose life intertwined with art, mysticism, and intrigue. Isolde was born Isolde Germaine Lucille on August 6, 1894, in Paris. Her origins were extraordinary as her life. She was the daughter of Maud Gonne, an iconic Irish nationalist, and Lucien Millevoye, a married French politician. Her conception came amidst Maud's grief over the death of her first child, George. Convinced George's soul can reincarnate, Maud and Millevoye conceived Isolde in the crypt of their late son's tomb, shrouding her birth in mysticism and secrecy. To protect her reputation, Maud refused to let Isolde call her mother, instead introducing her as her niece. Although Millevoye privately acknowledged Isolde and visited her occasionally, her upbringing alternated between her mother's homes and Millinois' family. Educated in a convent in France, Isolde's childhood was complicated further by her mother's tumultuous marriage to Irish nationalist John McBride and their bitter separation. Rumors linking McBride to misconduct involving a young girl, speculated to be Isolde, clouded her early years with additional controversy. Strikingly beautiful and intellectually gifted, Isolde was fluent in multiple languages and possessed artistic promise. However, her mother lamented at her lack of follow through in her creative pursuits, despite Isolde's publication of poetic fragments. Her lure captivated many notable men, such as Ezra Pound and W.B. Yeats. Yeats, who had long pursued her mother Maud Gonne, transferred his affections to Isolde and even proposed marriage, but was only to be declined. In 1919, Isolde married Francis Stewart, a poet 7 years her junior, despite fierce opposition from her mother and Yeats. Their marriage was turbulent and marred by allegations of abuse and estrangement. The couple reconciled briefly after the birth and tragic death of their first child, Dolores, in 1921. They later had two more children, Ian and Catherine, and settled in Lara Castle near Glendalough, where Isolde focused on her family and gardening. During World War II, Isole became briefly entangled in espionage when sheltering a German agent at the behest of her husband. Arrested in 1940, she was acquitted after a brief imprisonment. Meanwhile, her husband, Francis Stewart, pursued an affair in Germany and never returned to Ireland. Isolde's later years were shadowed by personal loss and neglect. Maud Gonne's death in 1953 brought another blow when she excluded Isolde from her will, maintaining the secrecy of their true relationship even in death. Isolde passed away the following year on March 22nd, 1954, with a heart condition exacerbated by isolation and neglect. She was laid to rest in Glendalough Cemetery in a poignant conclusion to life, marked by brilliance, heartbreak, and complexity. Like many Irish graveyards, this cemetery features the distinctive Celtic cross, a symbol deeply rooted in Ireland's cultural and spiritual heritage. The origins of the Celtic cross date back to the early medieval ages, coinciding with the spread of Christianity across Celtic regions such as Ireland, Scotland, and parts of England. This iconic symbol reflects a fusion of Christian and pre Christian traditions, resonating deeply with the Celtic people. The vertical and horizontal arms of the cross represent the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, central to the Christian belief. Surrounding the cross, the circle is thought to symbolize eternity, unity, and the cylindrical nature of life, concept both significant in Christian theology and Celtic spirituality. This combination of imagery just created a distinct symbol that bridged the two belief systems. The Celtic cross is strongly associated with Celtic monasticism and the missionary efforts that spread Christianity in these lands. Early monks and missionaries used the cross as both a teaching tool and symbol of faith, integrating elements of the Celtic pagan heritage into Christian doctrine. This synthesis gave rise to a unique and enduring design that continues to hold cultural and spiritual significance today. Beneath the round tower stands a remarkable Celtic cross, a modern adaptation dating to the late 19th century, a time of cultural renewal known as the Celtic Revival. This movement sought to rekindle Irish heritage, sowing the seeds for the 1916 Rising and the struggle for Irish independence. Among these connected to this cross is the Cowley family, who immigrated to America and named a town in Idaho, Rantham, after their native village in Wicklow. This cross also holds personal significance as the Cowley granddaughter was betrothed at this very site in 1925, blending a personal milestone with historical resonance. Nearby are six gravestones standing in a row, belonging to the Keane family, with variations of the surname spelling. A large Celtic cross among them prominently features ivy leaves intertwined in its design. This detail is a symbolic nod to the family's support for Charles S. Parnell, the prominent Irish nationalist and Land League reformer who resided in the Avondale House, Rantham Wicklow, during the latter half of the 19th century. This detail is a symbolic nod to the family's support for Charles S. Parnell, a prominent Irish nationalist and Legley reformer who resided in the Avondale House, Rantham and Co. in Wicklow during the latter half of the 19th century. The ivy leaf, Parnell's emblem, reflects their alignment with his ideals and legacy, further enriching the cultural and historical tapestry of this sacred ground. The region around the priest's house and cathedral is thought to have functioned as a cemetery since at least the 11th century. The site's sacred boundaries were once defined by two significant crosses, the Turban Cross to the west, marking the sanctuary's limits, and the St. Kevin's Cross on the eastern side. A local tradition has developed where people make wishes at the St. Kevin's Cross, adding a layer of spiritual significance to this ancient monument. The earliest graves in Glendalough are situated near the east gable of the priest's house, marked by simple, uninscribed slabs that likely date back to the 11th century. The oldest engraved headstone here on the grounds is from 1697, marking the resting place of Murlog Doyle. The priest's house, believed to have originally served as a mortuary chapel in the 12th century, holds four gravestones attached to its north wall. This is a very common practice to see in medieval churches at the time. These gravestones commemorate priests from the 18th century. In times long past, whispers spoke of clay harvested from the graves, said to hold uncanny healing powers. Believers claimed it could cure ailments of the eyes, drawn perhaps from the lingering essence of those who rested beneath. Among the gravestones in Glendalough Cemetery is several are the work of famed stone carver Dennis Cullen. His craftsmanship is distinguished by vivid scenes of the crucifixion, along with 18th century stylistic elements and intricate hand carved inscriptions. A notable example of his work stands on a small green patch to the left of St. Kevin's Cross, marking the grave of Elizabeth Roach. One gravestone, however, within the grounds is very peculiar. The granite gravestone is an unusual monument with inscriptions on both sides, the reverse side being positioned upside down. The grave marks the resting place of two families, both named Grant, who were first cousins. The identity, however, of this mason remains unknown, as his work bears no signature. It's thought he may have trained under Dennis Cullen, with his distinguishing style is marked by bold, deeply carved script, although his gravestones lack the decorative flourishes seen in Cullen's designs. During the late 18th century, the area south of the cathedral, behind St. Kevin's Cross, became a popular burial site within the monastic ruins. Many of the gravestones in this historic site are crafted from Ogham granite, showcasing the artistry of their time. Among them is a striking stone inscribed in Latin, commemorating Reverend Thomas Shemley, who passed away in 1759. Near the cathedral's eastern and southern walls, several memorial stones pay tribute to two doctors, Dr. Waldron and Dr. Garland, for their service to their community. Dr. Garland's death in 1901, while attending a sick patient, was followed by a grand funeral. The Wicklow People newspaper described the procession as a solemn assembly of 80 women and 100 men, all dressed in mourning attire. Inside the cathedral, gravestones lie flat on the floor or are fixated to the walls. These markers range from medieval designs to 18th century pieces, crafted from blue slate and granite. Among them is a gravestone with a bilingual epitaph, half in Latin, half in English, and one commemorating Walter Byrne, who remarkably lived to 106 before passing in 1750. The fallen memorial stone honors James Myrna of Rantham, a devoted Irish nationalist. Once standing as a proud monument to his legacy, the stone now rests in three sections on the ground, symbolizing the enduring respect he commands. The fallen memorial stone honors James Myrna of Rantham, a devoted Irish nationalist. Once standing as a proud monument to his legacy, the stone now rests in three sections on the ground, symbolizing the enduring respect he commands. One other memorial is dedicated to Reverend Edward Rowan, who faithfully served the people of Glendalough and Roundwood from 1862 for over a decade. Reverend Rowan was instrumental in building Glendalough's first national school and the priest's house in Lara. He now lies at rest in the priest's house alongside other clergy. Within the second arch on the right hand side of the site, a large mica schist slab bears a carved cross, marking the ancient sanctuary's boundaries. This stone signifies a sacred place for refuge, where those seeking protection not only found physical safety, but also spiritual solace and peace. I think it's a good idea to quickly remind everyone that Ireland wasn't a safe place at one particular time for all beliefs, and people were murdered and often brutally beaten, which is why this sanctuary was so important. These ancient grounds, steeped in centuries of history, carry their own haunting presence. A restless spirit is said to wander here, a spectral woman in a red dress, believed to be Kathleen. Sightings of her were particularly frequent in the 1970s, when a ghostly figure was seen moving throughout the grounds. According to local legend, it's believed that was Saint Kevin himself who was responsible for her tragic fate. One version of the legend tells of Kathleen as a temptress who, captivated by the holy man's piety and charm, sought to seduce him. But St. Kevin, steadfast in his faith, resisted her advances, even going as far as to punish her by thrashing her body with nettles. Overcome by remorse, she begged for his absolution, and St. Kevin prayed over her, guiding her towards a life of purity. But the story takes a darker turn in other versions of the tale, where Kathleen, unable to resist the holy man's allure, followed him to his cave, now known as Kevin's bed. There she tried once more to seduce him. Enraged, Kevin pushed her back into the lake below, where she then drowned, her life extinguished by the very man she had sought to claim. Kathleen's restless spirit is said to haunt the site to this day. In November of 1970, a couple visiting the cemetery captured a chilling photograph in which a figure of a woman dressed in red can be seen standing near the photograph's partner. But when the photograph was taken, no one was in the vicinity. A few years later, another tourist snapped a picture of a woman in a long red gown, walking quickly toward the ancient tower. Once again, there was no one present when the photo was taken. In 1975, an American tourist recounted an unnerving experience in the Wicklow People newspaper. When his wife visited the gift shop, he wandered alone through the cemetery toward the tower. As he glanced around, a ragged figure moved swiftly across the grounds, headed toward a ruined building. He approached the spot but found nothing. There had been no one in sight when the figure appeared, and he was left without a doubt in his mind he had witnessed a ghost. As if the spectral presence of Kathleen wasn't enough, more recent visitors have reported sightings of a monk dressed in a black robe. Some claim there's more than just one monk haunting the site. In the early 2000s, a group of friends camping on the ancient grounds were disturbed by unmistakable sounds of footsteps. When they turned to look, they saw a group of monks standing near them, their ghostly forms barely visible in the twilight. The group fled in fear, unsure if they had stumbled upon an eerie prank or encountered a true order of ghostly monks, still wanting the desolate site centuries after their death. The ancient site of Glendalough is a place where time itself seems to blur, where the whispers of history echo through the wind and shadows stretch over the weathered stones. As you step into the grounds, the air feels heavy with the weight of centuries. It's as if the very earth is steeped in forgotten tales, holding secrets just beyond your reach. The crumbling ruins of the monastic city are not merely relics of distant past. They're acting living remnants that pulse with memories of those who once called this place home. The stillness of the area contrasts sharply with the faint whispers that seem to drift through the trees, stirring the imagination of those who walk here. The more you explore, the more you feel the boundaries between the living and the dead begin to blur. It's as if in some places the veil between the two worlds is impossibly thin, an invisible line that separates the past from the present. In these moments, you might feel a chill, the faintest brush of something unseen, and a sense that the spirits of Glendalough are not as far away as you might think. The sound of footsteps not your own may echo in the quiet. The rustling of the wind through the leaves might carry faint voices, perhaps of the monks who once walked the same paths, or a lost soul like Kathleen in her red dress, whose fate has become part of the landscape itself. The spirits of Glendalough, their stories woven into the very fabric of this site, may never fully reveal their secrets, but they may make their presence known to those who are open to mysteries, to those who listen closely to the whispers and dare to walk where the dead once did hundreds of years ago. This is a place where the line between life and death is not drawn so clearly, and where the curious and the brave may catch glimpses of what lies just beyond the veil. The grave grind for Glendalough Cemetery was a cappuccino from Love Supreme in Dublin. For more honorary grinds in the area, please visit the-grim.com. For now, we're closing the gate on Glendalough Cemetery. We hope you enjoyed our dig into history. If you did, subscribe today to join us next time when we open the gate on the Grim.